They ganged up on you like cowards. They whispered behind your back, plotted in shadows, and thought their numbers could break your spirit. But what they didn't understand, what they never saw coming, was that pressure doesn't destroy a diamond, it creates one. You didn't fold, you didn't run, you stood tall, you faced the fire, and you dominated. Not because it was easy, not because you were lucky, but because you refused to be ordinary. You refused to let small minds convince you that your vision was too big. Let me tell you something powerful. The moment people gang up against you is the moment you become dangerous to mediocrity. When you trigger jealousy, it means you've already started shining. When they attack you, it's proof that your presence disturbs their comfort zone. And that's exactly what leaders do. They disturb comfort. You didn't need their approval, their applause, or their fake support. You had something much stronger: purpose. And when you walk with purpose, you don't chase people, you attract results. You see, champions are not born in silence, they're forged in storms. Every word against you, every plan made to bring you down was a stepping stone for your rise. You turned their gossip into fuel, you turned betrayal into energy. That's what domination looks like. It's not about revenge. It's about rising so high that those who doubted you can't even breathe your air anymore. You've got to remember, they might outnumber you, but they will never outwork you. They might try to shut you down, but they can't shut down the calling inside you. And when your spirit catches fire, when your hunger becomes louder than your fear, nothing, no group, no hate, no betrayal can stop you. That's when domination becomes destiny. So hold your head high. Let them talk, let them plot, let them gather. Because while they waste energy trying to pull you down, you're already building an empire they can't touch. You are not here to fit in. You're here to stand out. You're not here to compete. You're here to conquer. They ganged up on you like cowards, but you came back like a storm. And when the storm clears, everyone will know your resilience wasn't built to break. It was built to reign. Because the truth is simple. When they move in fear, you move in faith. When they gang up, you rise up. When they doubt, you dominate. That's not arrogance. That's power. That's focus. That's your destiny unfolding. Keep walking. Keep building. Keep dominating. The world is watching your comeback story, and it's legendary. They ganged up on you like cowards. They thought if they joined forces, if they surrounded you, they could crush your confidence and silence your voice. But what they didn't realize was this: opposition doesn't destroy the strong, it reveals them. You see, power isn't proven when everything's easy and everyone's cheering for you. Power is proven when you stand alone, when you're surrounded by doubt, and you still refuse to kneel. That's when your strength is tested. That's when your character is born. Every time someone tries to bring you down, it's because something about you reminds them of what they gave up on. Your drive, your discipline, your vision, it threatens their comfort. They can't stand your energy because it exposes their excuses. So they talk, they scheme, they gather. But here's the truth: they can only gang up because they fear facing you one-on-one. Cowards move in packs, leaders move in purpose. And when you walk in purpose, you don't chase acceptance. You attract respect. You didn't get here by being liked. You got here by being relentless. Every whisper against you became background noise to your mission. Every obstacle they threw at you became a lesson. And every betrayal, it became another reason to push harder, because you understand something most people don't. Pain is not your enemy. It's your teacher. Opposition doesn't weaken you. It awakens you. It sharpens your focus, toughens your mind, and fuels your fire. So when they gang up on you, smile. When they talk behind your back, keep walking forward. When they count you out, let your results count you back in. You're not here to prove them wrong. You're here to prove yourself right. And when you do, they'll realize they were never fighting against you. They were fighting against the power you carry. Because true strength doesn't come from being supported by the crowd. It comes from standing alone and still moving forward. You dominated because you didn't let their fear infect your focus. You understood that the louder they get, the closer you are to breaking through. And when the dust settles, when the noise fades, The same people who tried to stop you will be forced to watch you rise. That's what power looks like. That's what purpose does. That's what domination feels like. They ganged up on you like cowards, but you stood alone like a warrior, and that's why you won. They ganged up on you like cowards, hoping the pressure would crush you, but instead it created something unstoppable inside you. Because pressure doesn't destroy the strong, it reveals them. It's the heat that shapes steel, the storm that tests a warrior, the fire that transforms coal into a diamond. You didn't just survive the pressure, you used it. You didn't let the weight of their words or the pain of their betrayal bury you. You let it sculpt you into someone sharper, stronger, and hungrier. When life pressed you, you didn't complain, you adapted. When people turned against you, you didn't retreat, you rose. That's the difference between the ordinary and the extraordinary. Ordinary people break under pressure. Extraordinary people are born from it. The pressure that others run from, you faced it head on. You took every ounce of hate, jealousy, and doubt and turned it into energy. You learned that every push against you was secretly a push forward. Every rejection became redirection. Every insult became inspiration. And maybe you had moments when it felt too heavy, when you questioned why everyone seemed to turn on you, but that was the test, the moment that decides who you become. Because greatness never grows in comfort, it grows in conflict. You learn to breathe through the chaos, to keep moving through the pain, to stay focused while everything tried to distract you. You realize that the world doesn't hand strength to you, it demands it from you. You either rise to meet the pressure or you surrender to it. And you, my friend, chose to rise. The same people who tried to crush you with their words, their silence, their betrayal, they didn't realize they were part of your transformation. They became the unintentional architects of your greatness. You didn't just endure the pressure, you mastered it. You learned how to turn pain into purpose, setbacks into comebacks, and enemies into motivators. So, when people look at you now and wonder how you stayed standing, tell them this: I didn't just survive the pressure, I became it. Because once you've thrived under pressure, nothing and no one can stop you. You are the diamond forged in fire, the warrior shaped by struggle, the unstoppable force that turned pain into power. They ganged up on you like cowards, but you walked through the pressure like a king, and you still dominated. They ganged up on you like cowards. They thought if they piled on enough pressure, enough hate, doubt, and betrayal, they could finally make you break. But what they didn't understand is that pressure doesn't destroy the chosen ones. It refines them. You see, pressure is life's greatest sculptor. It doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't wait for comfort. It demands transformation. Every ounce of resistance you faced was not meant to end you. It was meant to evolve you. Because pressure creates diamonds, and that's exactly what you became: sharp, unbreakable, and brilliant under fire. When they talked behind your back, when they laughed at your struggle, when they celebrated your setbacks, you stood your ground. You took the hits, you absorbed the pain, you looked at the storm and said, "Is that all you've got?" That's what power looks like. Not the absence of pain, but the decision to rise in the middle of it. You didn't crumble under pressure. You adapted. You didn't shrink. You expanded. The same fire that was meant to burn you down became the flame that forged your greatness. Because every trial was training. Every betrayal was a lesson. Every setback was a setup for your comeback. And let's be honest, there were nights you felt alone. Moments you thought maybe they were right. Times when the pressure felt like it was suffocating you. But that's where true champions are born. In silence, in struggle, in solitude. That's where you learn the truth. Nobody can build strength for you. You've got to earn it, sweat for it, cry for it, bleed for it. Pressure doesn't ask if you're ready. It forces you to become ready, and you did. You stopped waiting for easy days. You stopped begging for fairness. You stopped expecting loyalty from people who couldn't even stay loyal to themselves. You stopped running and you started rising. The people who ganged up on you, they thought they were burying you, but they were planting you. They thought the weight would crush you, but it only gave you roots. They thought they could silence your fire, but all they did was add fuel. And now you stand taller, clearer, and more powerful than ever because you've learned the secret. Pressure doesn't break leaders, it builds legacies. So let them talk, let them scheme, let them doubt, because while they waste energy trying to pull you down, you're already rising to heights they can't even imagine. They ganged up on you like cowards, but you walked through their storm like a king, unshaken, unstoppable, and undeniable. You didn't just survive the pressure, you became the pressure. They ganged up on you like cowards. They thought if they isolated you, if they turned people against you, if they made you question yourself, you would lose your power. But what they didn't understand is that your power never came from their approval. It came from your purpose. The moment you stopped needing their validation was the moment you became unstoppable. Purpose is louder than applause. Purpose is stronger than popularity. And purpose doesn't beg to be seen. It demands to be fulfilled. You learned that chasing approval is a trap. The more you try to please people, the more power you give them over your peace. You realized you don't need to be liked to be legendary. Every great leader, every visionary, every history maker had to walk alone. At some point, they were misunderstood, mocked, rejected, but they kept moving. Why? Because they weren't driven by the need to be accepted. They were driven by the need to make an impact. That's what separates dreamers from doers. The dreamer waits for support, the doer builds regardless. You stopped explaining yourself. You stopped defending your dream because people who don't understand your purpose will always criticize your process. They can't see what you see because the vision wasn't given to them, it was given to you. And when they ganged up to make you doubt yourself, you turned inward. You reconnected with the fire that started this journey. That fire reminded you who you are. It reminded you that your worth isn't measured by applause. It's measured by progress. And once you tapped into that purpose, you stopped reacting to their noise. You realized something powerful. When you live for purpose, your focus sharpens, your energy shifts, and your life starts to move at a higher frequency. Suddenly, their opinions don't matter, their rejection doesn't sting, and their silence doesn't slow you down because you're not walking for them. You're walking for something bigger. So yes, they ganged up on you. They tried to break your confidence, but they accidentally helped you discover your clarity. They tried to strip your power, but all they did was push you back into your purpose. You no longer chase acceptance, you create alignment. And that's why you dominated. Because a person walking in purpose doesn't need permission. They just move, they just lead, they just win. You were never built to be liked. You were built to be legendary. They ganged up on you like cowards. They whispered your name with envy, not because of who you were, but because of what you represented. You see, jealousy isn't born in darkness. It's born in the shadow of greatness. The moment your light started to shine, it exposed their insecurities. The moment you began to rise, it reminded them of their own stagnation. That's why they turned against you, not because you did something wrong, but because your growth became a mirror to everything they weren't willing to face. Jealousy is the tax the universe charges for greatness. If no one's envious, you're not doing enough. When you walk with power, you'll always make small minds uncomfortable. Your drive irritates the lazy. Your courage threatens the timid. Your success offends those who settled for less. They can't handle your fire, so they'll try to dim it. But here's the truth. You don't lower your light to make others feel safe in their shadows. You rise, you glow, you keep shining until they either level up or look away. Because your purpose was never meant to fit into their comfort zone. You're not here to be liked. You're here to be legendary. You have to understand something deep. Envy is just admiration that's confused. The same people who talk about you wish they had your courage. The same ones who mock your ambition secretly wish they could move with your energy. But instead of doing the work, they choose to criticize yours. That's not your problem. That's their prison. And you're free. You're free because you no longer need to shrink to make others feel tall. You've learned that your glow doesn't come from approval. It comes from authenticity. When they ganged up, you didn't fight back with hate. You didn't lower yourself to their level. You kept building, you kept grinding. You let your consistency speak louder than their gossip. Because real power doesn't shout, it shows. You let your results do the talking, and eventually even your enemies had to respect your resilience. So remember this, Jealousy is proof that you matter. It's evidence that your presence has weight. Let them talk. Let them envy. Let them scheme. Because while they waste energy comparing, you're busy creating. They ganged up on you like cowards, but you stayed focused like a king. You didn't fight for attention, you earned admiration. That's how legends are made. They ganged up on you like cowards. They thought their whispers, their jealousy, and their envy could shake your foundation. But what they never realized is that your light didn't depend on their acceptance. Your shine was built from within. The truth is, jealousy only comes for those who are doing something worth noticing. The moment you started to rise, you became a reflection of everything they gave up on. Your courage exposed their fear. Your focus revealed their distraction. Your success reminded them of their excuses. And when small minds feel threatened, they don't compete. They conspire. But here's what separates you. You didn't let their envy distract you. You didn't waste your firefighting shadows. You understood that jealousy is a signal, a sign that you're moving in the right direction. If nobody's talking about you, you're probably not making enough impact. Every whisper behind your back became proof that you were ahead of them. Because let's be honest, no one throws stones at something that isn't shining. They saw your potential before you even saw your power. And when they couldn't match your energy, they tried to poison it. You kept walking while they kept watching. You kept working while they kept whining. You kept believing while they kept breaking. You became everything they said you couldn't be because you understood something powerful. You don't get to greatness by fighting with jealous people. You get there by outgrowing them. You didn't respond with anger. You responded with achievement. You didn't chase revenge. You chased results. And that's what made them even more furious. Your silence was louder than their hate. You turned their envy into evidence that you were chosen for something bigger. You realized that jealousy isn't about you, it's about their inability to see their own worth. They hate your confidence because it reminds them of the courage they lack. They envy your success because it highlights their hesitation. And the more they tried to tear you down, the more you rose, gracefully, powerfully, relentlessly, because you knew your purpose didn't need their permission. So when they gang up, let them. When they talk, let them. When they try to stop you, smile. Because every jealous word is a confirmation that you're rising beyond reach. You were never here to blend in. You were born to break patterns. You were never here to please the crowd. You were born to lead it. They ganged up on you like cowards, but your spirit stayed royal, your focus stayed locked, and your light kept blazing. You didn't just survive their envy, you turned it into your elevation. They ganged up on you like cowards. They thought if they hit you where it hurt, if they threw enough pain your way, you'd finally collapse. But they underestimated the fire inside you. Because real warriors don't run from pain, they use it. You didn't just endure the pain, you transformed it. You took every wound, every betrayal, every moment of loneliness, and you forged it into strength. You turned pain into power. That's what separates those who rise from those who fall, the ability to take what was meant to break you and make it build you instead. Pain is the most honest teacher you'll ever have. It doesn't lie, it doesn't flatter, and it doesn't quit. Pain shows you what you're made of. Pain strips away the fake. It doesn't care about your reputation, your excuses, or your fears. It forces you to find your truth, and you found it. You discovered that your greatest growth comes from your greatest struggle. You stopped asking, why is this happening to me? And started saying, this is happening for me. That shift, that moment of ownership is where your power exploded. When they betrayed you, you didn't let bitterness define you. When they rejected you, you didn't let insecurity control you. You learned that pain is a signal, not a sentence. It's a sign that something greater is being built within you. Every tear you cried watered the roots of your resilience. Every scar became proof of your survival. And now, when you look back, you realize without that pain, you wouldn't be this strong, this focused, this alive. People who haven't been through pain will never understand your fire. They'll never understand the level of calm you've earned, the depth of strength you've built, because you've walked through storms they couldn't even survive a minute in. That's why you walk differently now. That's why you speak with conviction, why you move with power. Pain didn't make you bitter. It made you brilliant. It made you unstoppable. So when life hits you, when people turn against you, don't curse the pain, thank it, because it's not punishment, it's preparation. It's building the version of you that no coward can stand against. They ganged up on you, they tried to crush you, but all they did was activate a version of you they'll never be able to compete with. You turned pain into purpose, wounds into wisdom, and struggle into strength. That's why you dominated. They ganged up on you like cowards. They thought if they came in numbers, if they surrounded you with noise and negativity, they could overpower you. But they forgot one simple truth. Numbers don't win battles, work does. They could talk all day, but you outworked every single one of them. That's why you dominated. You didn't need a crowd, you needed consistency. You didn't need applause, you needed action. While they were gossiping, you were grinding. While they were plotting, you were planning. While they were sleeping, you were building. That's the difference between followers and leaders. Followers compete for attention, leaders compete with themselves. You understood something they never will. Hard work is the ultimate equalizer. It doesn't care where you come from, what you've lost, or who's against you. If you're willing to outwork the rest, you win. Every time. Because effort never lies. You can't fake discipline, you can't pretend hunger, you can't act relentless, you either are or you're not. And you chose to rise. You chose to work when no one was watching. You chose to keep showing up when everyone else quit. That's how champions are made. Not by luck, but by labor. When they tried to block your path, you built a new one. When they tried to slow you down, you sped up. You realized their hate was just fuel. Their resistance became your reason. You stopped letting their opinions define your pace and started letting your purpose define your power. And every hour you spent improving yourself was one more step ahead of the people trying to tear you down. Because while they were talking about what you couldn't do, you were proving them wrong quietly, consistently, and completely. Work ethic beats envy. Discipline crushes gossip. Action silences doubt. You didn't need to announce your grind because results became your language. You let your success make the noise, and it echoed so loud that even your enemies had to stop and listen. That's real domination. When you rise so high that those who tried to stop you are forced to watch from below. So yes, they ganged up on you. They tried to outnumber you, but they couldn't outwork you. You showed them that strength isn't in the crowd, it's in the commitment. You stood alone, focused, determined, and fearless. You didn't just win, you became the standard. They came together to break you, but your work ethic made you untouchable. And now you are the proof that persistence always beats popularity. They ganged up on you like cowards. They thought their numbers gave them power. They thought that if they came together, if they spread lies, doubts, and hate, they could weaken your spirit. But what they didn't realize is that power doesn't come from numbers. It comes from work. It comes from commitment. It comes from the fire inside someone who refuses to quit. You didn't have an army behind you, but you had something far greater. You had hunger, you had discipline, you had that relentless drive to keep going no matter how heavy the world became. While they were busy talking about you, you were busy transforming yourself. While they were wasting time trying to stop you, you were using every second to get stronger, sharper, smarter. They had comfort. You had consistency. They had gossip. You had goals. They wanted to be seen. You wanted to be successful. That's the difference between you and them. They looked for shortcuts. You looked for challenges because you knew something they never understood. Growth only happens in discomfort, and that's why you dominated. You outworked everyone. You put in the hours when no one was clapping. You showed up when nobody cared. You didn't need validation. You needed progress. You weren't trying to prove them wrong. You were trying to prove yourself right. Every morning you woke up with fire in your heart and focus in your eyes. You moved with purpose. You didn't talk about it. You became it. While they relied on each other for confidence, you built yours in silence. And that silence became your superpower because real power doesn't need to shout. It simply performs. They couldn't understand how you kept winning after everything they did to stop you, but that's because they've never known what it's like to work from the soul. You weren't fighting for attention. You were fighting for evolution. You turned every setback into momentum, every insult into inspiration, every defeat into discipline. you realize that domination isn't about who's against you. It's about who's willing to go further. So yes, they ganged up on you. They thought they could overpower you with numbers, but you had something they could never match, a mindset that never quits. You turned work into your weapon. You didn't just survive, you outperformed. You didn't just resist, you rose. And now the same people who once tried to stop you have no choice but to respect the grind they couldn't match. They ganged up like cowards, but your work ethic made you untouchable, undeniable, and unforgettable. You didn't just win, you set the standard. They ganged up on you like cowards. They thought their hate, their noise, their lies could shake your belief, but they didn't know who they were dealing with. They didn't realize that faith is your foundation, not approval. They didn't understand that when fear drives others to hide, faith drives you to rise. You see, faith is not about hoping everything will be easy. It's about knowing you can handle whatever comes your way. And that's exactly what you did. You walked through storms others ran from. You faced rejection, betrayal, and pain, and yet you kept moving. Because deep down, you knew something powerful. When you walk with faith, fear loses its voice. They tried to scare you into silence. They tried to make you doubt your path. But fear can't survive in a heart full of belief. You knew your mission wasn't random. It was written. Every obstacle was part of your preparation. Every delay was a divine setup. You learned to stop asking, why me? And started saying, try me. Because the same fire that was meant to burn you down became the light that guided you forward. You didn't just have faith in something higher. You had faith in yourself and your ability to rise, rebuild, and reclaim your strength no matter how many times they tried to knock you down. Faith made you dangerous. It gave you calm when chaos surrounded you. It gave you direction when confusion clouded your path. It gave you power when everything seemed impossible. Because faith doesn't need evidence, it creates evidence. You started trusting your process even when it didn't make sense. You believed in your comeback long before it happened. You carried the unshakable certainty that you were meant for more, and that belief became your weapon. So when they ganged up on you, you didn't respond with fear, you responded with faith. You stood tall, looked at the storm, and said, I was built for this. And you proved it. Every time they tried to bury you, you grew stronger roots. Every time they doubted you, your faith grew louder. And now, here you are, still standing, still shining, still dominating. Because faith made you fearless. Faith made you focused. Faith made you unstoppable. They moved in fear, you moved in faith, and that's why they fell apart while you rose to power. They ganged up on you like cowards, but your faith made you a conqueror. They ganged up on you like cowards. They tried to drown you in doubt, hoping your confidence would crack under their noise. They thought their words could wound you, that their lies could limit you, but you did something they never expected. You went silent and got to work. You stopped explaining yourself. You stopped trying to prove your worth to people who were committed to misunderstanding you. You realized that real power doesn't come from arguing, it comes from achieving. You didn't fight their words with words, you fought them with results, and your results became the loudest response they'd ever heard. They threw stones, but you built with them. Every insult became a brick in your empire. Every rumor became energy for your grind. You didn't need to defend yourself because truth doesn't panic. It proves itself. And you proved it again and again with every milestone, every win, every comeback, because you knew something they didn't. Silence is a weapon when you're focused. You don't need to clap back when your success will echo louder than their hate. While they were watching, you were working. While they were laughing, you were learning. While they were gossiping, you were growing. You turned their doubt into drive, their jealousy into jet fuel. You refused to let their noise distract you from your mission. You understood that greatness doesn't argue, it acts. And that's what you did. You acted, you delivered, you rose, you transformed yourself from someone they mocked into someone they could no longer reach. That's what domination looks like. You let your silence speak, your discipline roar, and your progress make the noise. You didn't have to announce your strength, they felt it. You didn't have to explain your vision, they saw it. Every success you achieved was a statement, I don't need to tell you who I am, I'll show you. And you did, brilliantly, boldly, relentlessly. So when they ganged up on you, when they tried to bury you with words, you stayed calm, patient, and focused. You understood that storms don't last, but results do. You didn't fight for attention. You earned respect. You didn't chase validation. You created undeniable proof. And now the same people who once laughed behind your back are forced to watch your rise in silence. Because you didn't shout back, you shined back. They ganged up on you like cowards, but you silenced them with success. They ganged up on you like cowards. They thought their words could weaken you, that their lies could define you, that their gossip could bury you. They underestimated your silence. They mistook your calm for weakness, your restraint for surrender. But you knew better. You understood that silence isn't empty. It's loaded. It's the sound of power building, of strength sharpening, of destiny forming. You didn't waste time fighting small minds with bigger words. You let your results speak. You let your growth roar. You let your discipline answer every doubt they ever had about you.